Hey everybody, this is Matthew Doyle for VRGO, and this is episode 4 on November the 22nd. It's Tuesday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I hope you guys have an opportunity to tune in today because we've had a good 2 weeks in between our last production meeting and this one. And of course, as usual, I have Tim and Cathy from Rocket 5 Studios on the line. We're going to be going over some of the things they've been working on for the past 2 weeks. Sorry we didn't broadcast last week, but I was away in Montreal, and I was at MIGS, the Montreal International Game Summit. We might talk a little bit about my trip there during this meeting and how that went. A lot of VR up in Montreal, a lot of stuff there that was pretty cool to see. But anyway, so welcome to the show. I hope you guys enjoy what you see today. We're going to go over some of the progress that Tim and Cathy have made. And I'm going to go ahead and send it over to Tim and Cathy. Welcome to the show again.
Oh, hello.
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 So,
how was
MIGS?
MIGS?
You guys.
Good to see you too.
MIGS was good.
MIGS was good.
I didn't get sick.
Oh,
I followed
hey.
your
I followed
advice.
your advice.
Did you? Ah, yeah. You're like Lady Macbeth, washing your hands constantly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can actually
hear an echo now.
I'm
Not sure if it's coming up on the screen,
but
we might need to make some adjustments.
So what, you can hear your own voice echoing?
Yes.
Yes,
I can.
yes, I can.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to maybe plug in your headphones or something, if you can.
If you can.
I can see if I can get that going.
Yeah, that's odd. We tested it and it wasn't echoing before we started streaming, but now all of a sudden it is.
Well, maybe
Sure
Cathy
something got
can just
moved
talk
around.
about. Maybe Cathy can just talk about the mouse
Yeah.
while I get this set up. And
Yeah.
I think it's only when you're talking that we get the echo, right?
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, that works. Yeah, in fact, it's not echoing right now, which is strange. So it's kind of going in and out. I don't know why. Anyway, so MIGS was good. And I didn't get sick because I bought some of that Purell stuff and used it like religiously every 15 minutes. I was putting it on my hands. Now, the issue was, of course, that I had a VR headset demo that I was doing the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like realizing I'm touching all this headset after other people are touching it and putting it on their faces. And so it was
Yeah.
a little scary. But I didn't get sick, so great.
That's cool. I hope you didn't spread like disease from the headset. What I've seen people
did anybody
do,
else get sick?
and what we have is we have some wipes that we use on any, like when at conferences, I'm always like continually wiping down the keyboards and mice.
Yeah.
Because there's just so many people who play the game. It's like a never-ending stream on. Sometimes we had 4 dev kits up there at PAX, and people were playing the games constantly, which is great for us. But I worry about bacteria.
Yeah. Same thing.
Tax
here.
plague.
Yeah.
It was a good show though, and I didn't get sick. I mean, there was a lot of interest around VR. There were tons of VR booths there.
Yeah.
Well, tons. I mean, it's not like GDC or anything. It's a big conference for Montreal though. There were probably 4 or 5 booths that had VR setups. Microsoft HoloLens was there.
Cool.
Obviously, we were there. We were showing Serious Sam VR at our booth, which was made with 3D Studio Max and Maya and Motion Builder, I believe.
Cool.
Yeah, they're great guys. They've been around for a long time. I don't know if you've heard of Crow Team, Serious Sam. You probably have. Yeah, they've been around for a long time. Anyway, and there were some other guys there showing some stuff. MIGS is mostly like they get a lot of students there. You know, I'd say like 90% student traffic, which is cool because I always get a lot of students that want to know like how did I get into the industry? How do I what are my tips and tricks for them to get a job, and what is the most important thing in their portfolio to have, that kind of stuff. And it's always an interesting conversation.
Yeah, it is. We get that a lot at GDC, especially the last day is student day, and so we end up at our booth looking at a lot of portfolios, and if people want some of our feedback, we do that too. But like a show like PAX is less people who want to be in the industry and more people who just are game enthusiasts, which is a different audience, but it's still both really cool.
So I'm trying to figure out which setting I have to put here to actually hear you. I'm still just hearing you through my TV and not through my.
Well, the echo seems to have died. Whatever you've done, it seems okay right now. So
okay, well,
we'll just run with it. We'll just run with it, and maybe the technology gods will be kind to us, and it will work for the rest of the show. So let's all just get on with it. Let's talk about the game you guys have been working on. I haven't been able to watch all the streams, but I know you guys have been streaming like crazy. You've got like 8 or 9 streams already.
Yeah, 9.
The progress
Tim
is great.
I'm still nervous about streaming.
The last one I think was about 4 hours.
Oh man, thanks.
I don't know.
So maybe we should talk about the progress of the game before we jump into the characters, like an overview.
Yeah. What have we done?
Yeah, we can go in either direction first. I don't really care. Let's just go with what you guys think you'd like to show first.
We did a lot on game side. We did a lot with the play and stuff like that. But we can, like, when you start showing stuff, you can do a detail with that. I'd say in terms of art, Tim has done like a white box of what the background is going to be like. And he wants to try his hand at modeling organic forms. Because Tim's really good at making cityscapes and stuff like that. But he wants to try to do something a little less, regular.
Yeah, I was actually
trees.
Yeah, but
Are you gonna put that back on me?
No, but I'm gonna do. And we have like a low poly aesthetic, right?
Yeah.
So I think the background they won't be so organic that they're like look like real trees. They'll be more of the low poly kind of look with the triangulated kind of style.
Yeah.
Not like roundy shapes.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how those triangles of the background contrast with the super roundy characters that are. The oval and the circle are my favorite shapes. So it's very hard for me actually to design without those. And Tim's his favorite shapes are more triangles and squares and stuff like that. It's just a little harder edge kind of thing.
Yeah, like you described, Matthew, box modeling.
Box modeling?
Yeah, is my
your
strength.
thing?
Yeah, hard objects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible for me to design with hard and sharp objects. I love circles and things. And you'll see when you see the mouse.
Everything I make starts with a box, and it's just extruding edges.
Yeah. So in terms of the characters, all the owls are finished. I've organized the files so that they can be rigged easier. Because we're only using very few weighted meshes in the owls, just the wings are going to be weighted.
Yeah.
Everything else is going to be animated on the actual mesh. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to be animating the actual polygons and stuff like that. So in order to do that, I had to set up a file so that everything is in the right hierarchy. Mm-hmm. So there's a parallel between the skeleton structure of an object and if you're just animating on the actual meshes, the mesh structure. It's very similar. You have the root mesh and then you have the subsequent meshes and you have to make sure that when you animate one, the others will follow where they should. And so this week coming up, I'm going to be animating all the owls. And I saved, just to give myself a little more time, I saved the binding of the wings for this week as well, because then I can animate on them as I go. In terms of the hero character, the mouse, we still have the lower poly wings, the wing shape we were looking at the last time, because there's going to need to be an adjustment once we have the final mouse in there. And do you want to, where's the...
Yeah, let's have a look.
Yeah, do you want to...
How do I share the screen again?
Go under call, and then share screen.
Share screens.
And then click
this guy.
Start, yeah.
And start.
Cool.
Okay, can you see the pilot mouse?
Yes, I can.
Okay,
Looks
so
good.
here we are in, thank you. Here we are in Maya LT. And I was looking at a 3D picture of, do you guys remember The Secret of Nim? It's an old Don Bluth film.
Yeah, great movie.
And
I
there's
own a
like-
copy. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Bluth has got a great aesthetic. And not that this looks anything like that, but in terms of what the character, where I get the character inspiration from, is I really like this little upturned nose shape and the round shapes, but I wanted, instead of like the Mickey Mouse style ears, I wanted ears that are slightly more reminiscent of an actual mouse shape, so there's shapes going in there.
Yeah.
And in terms of appeal, it's really hard to describe what appeal is and how to get it. But appeal is the ability of the character to make an impact, a lasting impact on someone. And appeal is like the quality of any kind of thing to engage the audience or get some kind of interaction. And it's very hard to teach, like in classes that I teach, how to make an appealing character, but there is a relationship between the eyes and the mouth shapes. And I was trying out a low poly version of, when you can see oh, why can't I grab object not found?
Oh, it's just throwing an error.
Why?
I don't know.
Oh, weird. I've never actually
sometime.
seen that. So I'm going to look at wireframe unshaded, and you can see the poly count is really fairly low.
9,332.
Yeah, it can be lower.
Yeah, it looks like the group mouse might be locked and hidden or something, maybe?
Over in the...
Looking at the outline, all I know is it's
Oh, there it is.
Referenced.
Yeah.
There you go. It's referenced. Yeah.
It's just referenced, which is really useful if I'm animating really quickly and I don't want to select the mesh accidentally, but I don't want to make the mesh unselectable forever.
Yeah.
So I think, like, if you were just to select the mesh here, you can see the polygons is only 1,668. Where the poly count got wild is Tim's gun here.
Right.
Yeah, I was
there's two of
thinking
them.
it might be the miniguns.
Yeah, if you're looking at the density, like what I might do when I finally, I might reanimate these is I might just dial this down a bit because it's
Sure.
not something you can really see. And like I use a trick of softening the normals. Now this is a rigged and weighted mesh, so I don't want to deal with it too much. But up under, where is it? Surfaces. Oh, I'm in modeling. Yeah, mesh display. Harden edge or soften edge. I use this all the time, especially with like low poly modeling. If I want to get a nice sharp crease, say for example the character's got a belt and I want that to stand out because it's a utility belt, I'll harden the edge on either side of that belt. So that way I don't have to use what higher density meshes would use as two edges right next to each other so that they can be sharper. But I find that using that hardened edge is really useful. It's really cool. So in here, it was difficult to figure out where the gun should be and where the what are these things called? The propellers.
Fans, yeah.
Fans, because the mesh wasn't finalized and the final pose wasn't finalized. So what happens now is that these will get redistributed, I guess, across the wings. So that it doesn't look like, to me, it's really uncomfortable, this narrow gap between the gun and the character's face, especially the character's eye. It reminds me of, what's the name of that Japanese film, Hard Boiled, where the hitman has to kill someone and he shoots across some woman's face and blinds her, then he feels responsible for her. I feel responsible for my characters. I think that's part of being an animator. You have to really engage with what you're animating.
Right.
You have to really understand, like when you have a character, you have to make an interior life for it. And that really dictates everything about the shapes of the character and everything about how the character moves.
Yeah.
And that's really critical to get it engaging.
Yeah, that's what I was telling some students at MIGS this past week. I actually had some animators come up to me. They were studying at Maya animation, and they were asking, what do you think are some of the important things we need to consider? And my first thing was anatomy. You need to learn character anatomy. You need to learn, study sculpture. Go out and take figure drawing. It's at an art studio. They do. You can probably find one locally where they have someone come in and you pay $20 or whatever, and just get really comfortable with human anatomy and animal anatomy so that you can know when you can break it, when you can fudge it, when you can't, and how a character should react and move and study motion. And I think all that exactly what you're saying is absolutely important to really be a skilled or competent game artist.
Yeah, it's so many times it's kind of a joke, that what's my motivation is the thing actors say. And, there's a joke of someone playing a carrot and on a commercial. Well, what's my motivation? But these characters, if you want them to feel alive, and animation is the illusion of life, then you have to understand where this character was,
right,
and where this character will be. So in my mind, this guy, and he doesn't really have a name, His name is Mouse Pilot. So he's like the hero. So he's Mouse Pilot. And he's coming from his village because his village is being stormed by these evil owls. And maybe there's a drought, or maybe there's a lack of food, or maybe there's some kind of a post-apocalyptic world. I haven't gone that far. But he's like the last hope. He has to save. You have this onslaught of the evil owls. And it's kind of like, these are natural enemies. This is the prey.
Mm-hmm.
And the owls are predators. And the owls are pretty effective predators.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what we see here. I'm going to turn on joint display, and it's a very simple joint chain. I tried something different today, this time, in that the root, or the COG of the character, is here, because this character is dangling. Normally, what I would do if this character was going to walk around in the world, I would make the hips, like right above the hips, right there. Well, these are top of the leg, I guess, so that's hips. Sort of just under the belly button of any of the characters, where the belly button would be my, in animation terms, root, but we normally say COG, center of gravity. And everything would move from there, would move up and out, and the legs would move down, and there would be an IK chain on the legs, because the most important thing would be for the character to have some kind of connection with gravity. Mm-hmm. But here, it all is this point of dangle. So to just make it easier for me, sorry, where's the grid? There he is. I strung everything from there. And then, because it's so simple, I can animate really easily everything as a joint. Now, some people say don't ever animate on the joints. I really don't see why. Unity even accepts joint scaling, which is fantastic. When I was working in AAA, we couldn't scale any joints because the engines wouldn't deal with it well. Yeah. But anyway, so I'm going to hide the joint transparency. And when I'm animating on the joints, what I normally do is I select the joints. I'll try this one. And I'll go under display, transform display, and I'll show selection handles. Because that way I can turn off the joints and see the selection handle is visible here and it's not visible there. I'm going to turn that back on. So display. Sorry, Tim has a mouse that I find really uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean, on the whole joint thing, not rigging and whatever, like, I could see how not rigging a character for a studio that has less time and stuff would actually be beneficial. Because that's a lot of time to rig a character with control curves and all that. And obviously, the less complex your character animations are, the less you really need that, too. So I can definitely see the time. I
totally agree. There. Like there's also people, like I've been animating for a long time, so it's really comfortable for me to animate tail chain. And what I do is I make the poses and I offset the frames in the. I use the dope sheet a lot, actually. Yeah. And we see what the dope sheet looks like. Windows. See, I have hotkeys for all these things, but I'm using
Tim's computer. Yeah.
Tim's computer, which is set up for a different kind of thing. So I find this really great, especially for cinematics, where I can make scenes and then I might want to give myself an extra 2 or 3 seconds in the middle of something. So what I can do is I can go into view and see scene summary, and now scene summary shows every single thing in my scene, including cameras. Mm-hmm. The one really important thing is it does not display set-driven keys, because if you move the set-driven keys away from 0 and 1, you break that controller for whatever it is. So if you look, for example, in where was I again? Just window, animation editors. I use hotkeys so much I forget where things are. So if you're looking at the graph editor and the curves, then if you grab all of those curves, you're also and you select everything in your scene, you're also grabbing set-driven keys if you select your rig. So you don't want to move those at all.
That's a good tip.
Yeah, but then what I can do is I could just grab all this, and in here I can do either plus equals 1 or minus equals 1, and I can move a huge amount of data back and forth, which is super, super great for scenes like when I was working on Tomb Raider. I'd have 5 or 6 characters in a scene that was completely mocapped, and cameras and all kinds of other things, and the director would say, I need another 5 seconds on this shot or this part of this shot. And it would be really arduous if you tried to move that amount of information in the timeline, which is another great way of moving everything that's selected. So I'll grab that, and I can select hierarchy. Where's hierarchy? Hierarchy. That means I've grabbed all of the joints, and so I don't know how basic people want this information, but I can move things quite easily.
Yeah.
In
there's multiple ways. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
see. Okay. I thought Tim said all of his hotkeys to something different than I do.
Just one. Just the keys.
Yeah, I'm a big hotkey guy too. I'm all about the hotkeys, and I can imagine struggling on someone else's machine.
Oh yeah, it's painful. The thing that's really important, especially if you're going to tell someone who's just learning, is you really must learn how to use hotkeys. And when you're working, my right hand is on the mouse and my left hand is on the keyboard all the time.
Yeah.
Like all the time. So I'm going to show you just one thing here. This is to set a skeleton, even if you're using something like Mixamo, but doesn't handle tails, by the way.
Yeah.
Or ears. Or any kind of
Yeah, Mixamo is for anyone that doesn't know. Mixamo is currently Adobe bought them. It's basically a tool for creating animations, quick rigging a character basically using control points, and then you can use their library of motion capture, which is currently free if you go there.
Free with your Adobe license.
Yeah, some baked animations and stuff already. And they got quite a few. They have quite a few. I've used them. I think they have several hundred baked animations already. But anyway,
yeah, they have a character creator if that suits your aesthetic. It really isn't my aesthetic, but it's a very useful tool, especially if you're just learning and you want to make a like a prototype kind of game just to learn.
Yeah.
But that's not something we necessarily use here, but it's an interesting thing for sure.
Yeah, I like it just for the mocap library. They have so many canned animations that you can
they do
use as a starting point.
So what let's go. I'm going to move on from this is so someone can see my joint chain. I did go a little overboard on the amount of joints this guy has, and I kind of couldn't help myself because I was envisioning him moving in all kinds of different ways. But whenever you're going to rig a character, you want to select everything. What's the hotkey for select hierarchy? Shift H?
Like pick walking or?
No, hierarchy.
I don't think it has that by default. When I do select hierarchy, I usually select the bone and then right click on it and choose select hierarchy from there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can.
Select that.
Yeah, if you've got the joint selected, you should be able to do. Yeah, there it is. Select hierarchy at the top. It's in the first subsection. Go back up. Right down.
Oh, there it is.
There you go.
Select hierarchy.
That's what I usually do.
That's cool. But I'd have to get this one. I grabbed the wrong one. But so what you have to do is you have to select hierarchy, and then anything that I've got, like it's really important to be organized and label things correctly. So what I have to do here, it's really easy. If I label this arm correctly, and you see that the arm is clavicle, mouse clavicle _L, I can actually mirror that joint chain, and it creates this one automatically for me, which is a huge time saver. To export to FBX, for us, we have a very, very simple workflow. We create the character. Sometimes I'll have control curves, because especially if I want IK and stuff like that. But we bake all our information to the joints, and then we delete the control curves should we have them. And if you want, I can show you that with, say, the wings. It might be easy to do that for the wings and not take too much extra time for something we don't need. So that would all be baked, and you notice that there are no constraints. So in FBX, most important thing about FBX is it doesn't understand constraints. So if I have something parented, like this skeleton chain, it understands this. Yeah. But if I do something like any kind of these constraints, they will not export, and you'll have a broken thing in the engine. So this way it's super, super easy, and you get information where you need it. But when you are going to weight something, it's really important not to have any of these bones like end, because those things don't control any animation, so we don't need to have any vertices mapped to those at all. And then I would select the mesh, and then under rigging, under skeleton or skin, you would do bind skin. And obviously I don't want to do that because it's already done.
What binding algorithm do you normally use, or is it vary?
No, I'm like I said before, I'm new to all of this.
So you pretty much just use the default. Yeah.
I use the default. I mean, joint hierarchy,
geodesic,
geodesic voxel, the default setting, and distance. But I usually only allow 2 influences.
Okay.
Because I want to make my weighting really simple.
Yeah.
And I find that the automatic weighting is pretty good, but it doesn't take me all the way there. So the easiest way for me to go through and make sure that I can get the mesh shapes that I want, and the deformity and the deformations, I make these poses. And they're not meant to look good.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering what that was. I was looking through the file. I was like, those are some odd poses. What's that all about?
Yeah. What we would call this is rig aerobics in a different studio, and this is actually a stage of production where you move the character in ways that it's not necessarily. Oh, I should have wings. Have wings, yeah. Not necessarily meant to be looked at.
Yeah. Like now, is there like some kind of set way to do this, or is it just kind of random? Like you choose some weird poses?
I choose the poses on purpose. I choose them in ways that I know is going to break the rig.
Okay.
And then I try, with this guy I didn't push him too far because I know he's very limited in terms of his poly count. So there's really only so much I can do. I can really only get information on these vertices.
And he's not going to move too much.
And he's not going to move too far. He's not going to be doing the splits this way. He's only going to be dangling, so I don't need too much. So here the clavicle's not really animated, so I could animate that if I want to. See how it deforms, but it doesn't really matter. So these are the poses that I've chosen in terms of the range of motion that I'm going to need. And then after I get the basic weighting that's automatically provided by the algorithm in my ILT, I'll go through and I'll make other poses that I actually want. And this is going to be there's that weird, remember I moved the hand? So that's that extra key there that we don't want. But what I'll do is I'll make my base pose, and I'll make sure that that base pose goes along, and I'll continue to tweak the weighting as I need it throughout.
What do you use, like paint skin weights or what?
Yeah, paint skin weights. Oh, I have a hotkey for it. Tim doesn't, which is under skin and paint skin weights. And I'm always looking in here. Normally what happens is when you select, like for example, if I was to select the mesh, you would see when I go back to skin weights, which is always the last tool to use, is always here on the sidebar.
Yeah.
So that I can grab each one of these things and see what needs to be done here. And I usually use color ramp because it's really pretty. I know, because sometimes when something is weighted very lightly, like sometimes you wouldn't notice, and you can hold down B and make your brush smaller or larger. You may not notice, I didn't notice at first that this was gray, but when I use color ramp, I can see right away that this joint is affecting this part of the mesh.
Yeah.
And I noticed over the years that my initial weighting is actually getting more and more close to what I actually want. So I would, and believe me, watching me doing weighting and stuff like that is, how do I close this? Where's my little X?
Oh yeah,
I just dragged it off.
Dull work.
Yeah, it's really dull, and it's. I don't want to show you because you'll die.
Yeah, no worries.
Oh God, this is like watching paint dry, because it does take time. It took me about 2 hours to hand paint the weights that I want. And again, remember my mesh density is very, very low.
Yeah. No, it looks great. I think he's coming along really nicely. Skinning looks good. So
he looks cool in the game too.
Oh, he looks
Pretty
so
excited.
good in the
I
game.
can't wait to see that. I kind of saw some footage of the older one still, but I don't know. Have you got him in the game yet? Like
I sent the build that I sent you this morning has him in the game.
Has him in the game. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Are you gonna be able to show that to us here today live?
I think so.
Yeah, I was. I don't know if you saw me fiddling around with my light tower thingies. One of them's not showing up all of a sudden, so hopefully VR is going to work on this end. I'll find out once I get back in.
We can try to get it going on my end too. I still have my headset plugged in and everything. Haven't used
it in
over a week though.
I'm a little worried if one of my lighthouses died.
Oh, that wouldn't be good.
Battery wise, or
no? They're plugged in. They look fine. They got their green lights on, but the Steam VR app on the desktop is showing only one of them. Anyway, so once we switch, I'll be able to investigate further.
Yeah. Speaking of the Vive, just real quick before we move on, have you heard that they've actually released a wireless add-on?
I did not know that.
I think it's like $200, but it's like a wireless thing. It goes up right on the back of the headset. It's not real heavy, and it'll allow you to be untethered.
That's already out, huh?
Yeah, I think you can pre-order it or something, or it's already out. But it's like I can't remember exactly. I saw it briefly at MIGS, like the I didn't see it, but I saw the article for it that it's either in pre-order or something like that. But they had pricing on it and everything. So
cool. I bet it'll probably take a while to get to Canada.
Yeah.
Which is where we are.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're going to be in the States next week.
But that would be handy because I'm always running over my cord.
Yeah. Yeah, I think VR is really starting to show some promise when you get things like that, like untethered VR, and we'll see.
Yeah.
Anyway, so.
Yeah. So do we want to show the owls? I mean, the frog.
Now, did you? You had mentioned to me that you used the game exporter, though.
I was going to do the game.
Just kind of show briefly how you use that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we don't have hotkey here, so let me go back. Keys? Oh, sorry. No, it's okay. I'm on it. It's all right. So there we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just grab this guy and get rid of this. I'm going to go over there, copy that, put there. Okay. So this character isn't exported yet. It actually is, but let's go through the thing. So just to remind myself, and I do a lot of hand naming, I would call this guy export. So that the next time I go to work on this, say for example, Tim asked me for 10 other animations and I thought it was finished, I know that this one is the last of that chain. And my next file I would create, I would start with version 5_01, and it wouldn't have export on it. So I know that this is the version that I export, and I always know this.
Can I explain your naming convention for a second? Like what the version and then the number after that?
So this is the character, mouse pilot, and _version 4, which means that version 1 would have been modeling any significant change that I make. Like if I decided to change the ear shape completely, so that became version 2.
Okay.
Version 3 became was when I created the skeleton. Version 4 is when I weighted the mesh, and then when I start animating, it's going to be version 5.
Okay.
So I know every time I do a version up in terms of this first number version is when I make a very, very significant change to the file. And then there might be from 01 to, sometimes it always ends up being version 15 is my final version. I don't know why. It's been like that.
The subversions of the work you're doing while you're working on it. Yeah. Okay.
And then also, just to be extra safe, because I don't like wasting time, I also increment save. Mm-hmm. So in my folder, where are we? Mouse pilot. It didn't do it. You don't know what it's at.
It's in storage. That was the drop.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I set increment save. So every time I press Control S, which is literally every 3 to 5 minutes, I'm creating a version. And at the end of the week, I'll go and I'll delete all of those incremental saves as automatic backups because I won't need them.
Yeah.
So now I've got really important to this is it doesn't really matter that this is in the wrong position. When it comes time, I'll actually add this to the hierarchy, and it'll be moving with the character. But when it comes time to export, it's really important that you have a T-pose on 0 and 1, and this is important for Unity's pipeline. Zach, why is that? Why does Unity need that?
I don't think it needs it. It's just that I like to work that way. Sometimes you want a character, you just want to have a base pose on a character, and then so we've just always set a rule in the studio that 0 to 1 is always the T pose.
Yep.
And that so if I place a character, he's not going to be placed in like a run animation. He's just going to be standing there in T pose.
Yeah, and you notice this is the way you get back to 0 because all the rotations are 0.
Right.
Like it's because it's joint rotation. It's very easy. We used to do that at LucasArts. We used to do that at Crystal Dynamics. At LucasArts, the T pose had to be at -10.
Oh, that's interesting.
And -9, and it was because they wanted to get their dynamic program, which is called LaSim, working, and that was just a requirement of LaSim. It really doesn't matter for the animator why they make these things or who makes these things. We know it comes down from the engine, and we know that without that information, the file won't work.
Okay.
So it's really important to follow protocol for where we're working. And so just like, we're a studio, we're actually a real studio, even though it's Tim and I. So we follow the rules because it makes sense. That way we have conformity, we have uniformity, and we have predictable results, which is really, really important.
That's a good point.
So,
yeah. I gave a talk, a session at MIGS on pipelines. It was basically, the title was, "What's a pipeline and why do indies care?" And we talked about the very thing about the flexibility of the pipeline, but at the same time, it needs to be defined enough. You need to follow protocol, basically. But what was the thing you just said? Say it again for me. You said the phrase you used. It was a good phrase.
I don't know.
Oh, God, I forgot. I totally blanked.
Roll the tape back.
Yeah, roll the tape, roll the tape. But
what was it pertaining to?
Well, it was pertaining to following the protocol, but basically it was another phrase you used, and I just thought it was great. But anyway, the whole point was you've got rules that are set in the pipeline, and you need to make sure the whole team is working within those rules. Otherwise, it's going to break the pipeline, yeah.
Absolutely. Like, you have to determine right off the bat what the start frame number. Are you going to use, was it natural numbers or whole numbers? Do you start at 0 or do you start at 1? That's actually really important. If half of your team is starting at 0 and the other half are starting at 1, it's really hard for a programmer or anyone up the line to understand, like, am I cutting off a frame? Is what's going on? I'm expecting this to start at 0 or 1.
Yeah.
But that's kind of information that I'm sort of set in my ways, I guess, because that was information before something like this tool, which is ridiculously awesome. The game exporter. Time error. You have a different version. Oh, I'm using version 16.
Yeah, that's the time editor's new in my LT. And the game exporter has a new way to export animations. It's a non-linear editor, and kind of like what video editors use for creating different animation clips and stuff. And so the time editor is just a new export option there.
Oh, cool. I'll have to look into that. That's awesome. So normally what happens is I have my character grouped, and it's, again, important to keep everything together because as an animator, if I'm working in a studio, if I get a file that's got a ton of different junk in it, like this kind of thing, would not be in any file that I would be getting to animate. So then I would create my file, or someone would create, like a tech artist might create it for me. If I'm doing a cinematic, for example, it would have this one, then it would have L1, L2, L3, L4, then it would have another folder that would be set.
Yeah. And
so it's very organized and very, very clean. And the same thing would go if I'm getting meshes and I want to weight them and organize them. If someone had given me, well, let's look at this guy, for example. Within the group, there's all of these things. And if someone had given me all these meshes, like Tim has them all unnamed, which drives me bonkers.
Yeah.
So I usually go back and start saying, at least I know what this group is, or at least I know that these are the wings, or left wing and right wing. He has it somewhat organized, which is really cool. But this kind of thing doesn't fly. It drives me nuts, because if you're looking for one tiny little thing, I want to search for it. I don't know what it's named. Like, I know that this is going to be left. I can see it up here. Mouse elbow left. I know where it's going to be right off the bat. So I can say mouse elbow left, and I can find it much easier if I need to. So that's one important thing, because God, this is a huge group of things. And And I'll probably combine some of his meshes as I go, just to make it neater and cleaner. So within the game exporter under animation, and let's go through just exporting this one because there's only really 3 animations we're going to look at. The animation default, so I'd use a default workspace. If I was using something for a character I use over and over and over again, I would, and I'm exporting something the 3rd or 4th time, I would load my preset, which would be, is that load preset? Yeah, which would be here, and I would have some kind of preset saved somewhere like I do on my computer. And if I've done this, if I know I'm going to be exporting this guy many times like I will, I would create a preset. So this is add new export preset. I would call it pilot, and that'd be an animation default, and I would save it there. So if I was going to come back, I could say load. No, let's save. Sorry. Load the thing, and it would be. Oh, you put it somewhere else. Anyway, doesn't matter. We'll go back to that.
Yeah, I don't know. It looks like it might not have saved. I don't know.
Yeah.
When you created it.
Yeah, maybe, but we can do it. We can do it after we finish it. So
Okay.
I'll show you that. But we also export selection, and in terms of settings, the way Tim likes to work is save clips to a single file, but other people might work with save multiple clips. So
Yeah,
you would have
Unity can work with multiple animations in a single file, right?
Yeah, and that's how we work, which is really cool. I don't embed media, and we can do this later. But what I'll do in terms of animation clips, I'll start one, and I'll type in T-pose. I like to use the, what do they call it, the camel hump method of naming things. So every time I get a word, camel, yeah, I would add another capital. So this one starts at 0 and goes to 1. And then I would add a new pose. And this is where I'm going to go between these guys, between 2 and 5. And I would call this, now I would never really save this, okay?
Yeah, sure.
This is just for this purpose. I would call it poses. And these go from 2 to 5.
Yeah.
And the third one, which would be Unity needs at least 2 frames to register a pose. This one is from 6 to 10. That's why the T-pose is 0 and 1. That's just a bit of information there.
Okay.
6 to 10. This is this little thing here, where it sets the time frame, the time slider to the range of this and plays it, is my absolute favorite thing ever. So you see, this is visual garbage. It's not meant to be an animation. Although
awesome.
it would look really funny if he was being shot. No, it's actually too. The discrepancy is so big between poses is that's why you have this strobing. But here, you see, notice it's moved from 6 to 10, and it allows me to play back everything. So after I've set all of my poses and stuff, what I do is I go back, even if there's 50 of them, I'll go back and test. Because it's quicker for me to do that than it is for me to make a mistake and Tim to find the mistake and then me to go back and have to open the file and fix it.
Right.
It just makes sense. Now, obviously, if nothing has changed and I'm on my, I think for Kitty Disastrous, I have something like 400 distinct animations. So if I'm working on animation 399, I'm not going to go from frame 0 to frame 4,000.
Right.
I know those ones are fine. All right, so we have
cool.
the character selected, and we have all of this set. We can now go in. Let's try to go in and save this guy again. Save preset.
Can you just say that in the default location that Maya?
Yeah, I do the default, and I back this up somewhere else because I back up everything. So there's our animation default. Now let's see if we can load that to make sure it works the same. So load that. So this is like if I'm going back in and I'm adding more poses, more animation to this, you can see that it's already saved this.
Yeah.
So save clips clips to a single
And that
file,
works if you have multiple variations of the same character too, right?
which we will. For example, if we continued this game and I made another character with a mesh on top and I used a rig, after I bake it down, well, actually, no, that wouldn't work. If we had another version, it would be.
If you had another version of the mouse with, say, a different texture on it or a different wing configuration, but they shared the same animations and stuff like that, and you didn't want to re-input all the animation clip data in here, you could load that preset onto that second character and it would just all be there.
Yeah. Okay. So we would set our directory. Where do we want to save it? Where are we? Where's
it's on my computer. Oh, where are you going to save it to?
Your sync file.
My sync file? Storage disk
well, wait.
My computer. D. Oh, you're saving it into the project?
I don't know.
GitLab, just stick it anywhere. In GitLab?
Don't stick it anywhere. It's just a demo.
Yeah. We'll put it here.
Okay.
And that's our directory, so choose. And so it's going to be in GitLab, and then I would call it, and this is literally how easy it is. It's running through everything. It's done.
Do you have to add the FBX extension, or will it add it?
I think it already automatically does it as an FBX.
I think it does too, yeah.
I just do it from habit.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and then now if I'm doing that, if I put another animation in there, blah blah blah, and I have more frames, I would go and I would save over this, and then I would give that to Tim. Now I always save a backup somewhere else because I have export history because I'm, I don't know, paranoid.
OCD.
Yeah, well, I've worked it enough times where people have wanted to revert to another library and they've, for example, deleted everything from SourceSafe.
Yeah.
So after I finish the project and it's shipped, literally it's shipped, I'll go back and I'll delete an enormous amount of information.
Right.
And I'll keep only the final version.
Yeah, smart tip. Save everything, at least while the project's ongoing. Yeah, don't delete anything.
Everything. Yeah. There was a feature I was working on where I think I was gone through 10 different versions and I kept on getting conflicting direction. So finally I went back to my first version, which I had obviously kept, and that was the one that was approved. That happens sometimes.
Nice.
So keep everything. If I had to reanimate it right from scratch, that would be more days of work, and that means money.
So this all looks great. One quick question, just to keep us on focus here. What, if any, considerations have you had to have while building the asset for VR? It
has to be as small as possible. Like every single one of these vertices are hand placed, so that I really don't have to have any more. Like even the detailing around the ear, there seems to be a lot, but it's only me choosing where the tries are rather than the out, because everything, all the quads get converted to tries anyway in the so I place them so I can actually shape them. Sometimes I give myself a luxury, which is a lot of information in here, but if it's too heavy, I can always go back and fix it. The other thing, what else would be, really I need to have less joints.
Yeah.
Because all of this is information. I need to have all of my meshes one-sided. I want to have as much continuous mesh as possible, so all of my vertices are merged here. This is, like you notice when I select it, it's all in one mesh.
Yeah.
So I want to be as light as possible. This, however, hasn't been optimized for VR.
Right.
So, when we have like 50 owls in there or more shooting at you, it really is important to try to be as economical as possible with the mesh. In this case, what I had done is I had made all of these separate surfaces. So this mesh is associated with a lot of different materials.
Yeah.
These are all the materials. So these are the mice. So 1, 2, 3, 4 different materials on that mouse, and then it's all combined at the end. So that's about it, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
So just making sure it's optimized as far as poly count and joint structure and materials.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And do we want to see the few drawings?
Let's have a quick look at those concepts.
So our big boss is going to be a very, very fat frog that's going to leap off the pond at the bottom. And
wasn't he originally going to be another owl?
He was, but
Okay.
this is one of the reasons why he's not finished yet, because Tim really needs to figure out the best thing that's going to play. And we were thinking about an owl, but then it's like, how do you destruct it, and how do you kill it by stages?
Well, then well, we still haven't quite figured all that out with the frog either, but, I did a quick modeling job on the arena, the forest that you're in during the battle, and I put a little sort of circle in the bottom of the thing, and then on the ground, and then it started thinking, well, what if that was a pond, and that the boss comes out of the pond, and then, okay, well, why would an owl come out of the pond, and then that's where the frog idea came from. But I don't know why the frog floats or anything like that,
Because he's mystical.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works.
So yeah, he's a mystical
not.
frog. I mean, the whole thing is, it's a bit sci-fi, even though
Yeah, he could be like have jetpack or something, or
yeah, whatever.
He's utterly ridiculous. So,
Yeah, so in the fiction of this little weird forest that you're in, there's this frog that lives in the pond at your feet, and every once in a while pops up, and you shoot at him.
What'd you say, Matthew?
It kind of reminds me. You could go the Dune approach, Baron Harkonnen,
Yeah.
floating fat suit or whatever he had.
Yeah.
He's so fat.
Yeah, with covered in the boils.
Yeah.
It is reminiscent of that.
Boils too. So the way we see it is this big frog leaps up out of the pond, and he's got these projectiles all over him.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know whether they're going to be boils.
Yeah.
I had some reference that was really cool with frogs with warts.
I think just normal wart kind of stuff. You don't want to make them grotesque.
But then he starts to spin, and as he's spinning, he's shooting projectiles out of all of those little orifices.
Nice.
And so you get these things whipping around in a sort of a helix around him, getting bigger and bigger.
So in the classic bullet hell kind of style, you get this big pattern of these bullets coming out.
Yeah.
Which I guess are mouse pellets.
But then he will deplete. And this is how I see it.
Yeah,
Tim is not quite so sure of
No, I
that.
just don't know how you're going to deform him to that withered shape.
Well, I'm not. What I was thinking of is having hard, rigid body, like armor.
Uh-huh.
So he'll leap up and he'll expose his magnificence in this,
Sort of like a
puffed up
turtle
thing.
shell or something.
Right, and so as you shoot him, this will be segmented, and each piece will pop off, revealing the underfrog.
He's just a little tiny guy.
Yeah.
He looks all shriveled, and it's
That's a
kind of
cool
like
idea.
it's also reminds me of, and this is insanely bizarre, but there's a character in the Fairy Queen from Spenser. It's a Renaissance work of literature called Orgoglio, and lately I've been thinking about bullies a lot, and bullies are puffed up and full of air, and when you defeat them, they reveal their true self, just nothing but a pathetic kind of wormy kind of thing. And that character is our Orgoglio is the archetype for that type of character. And
Yeah,
I love the idea of our big bosses, our bullies, being just little jerks underneath.
Mm-hmm.
And if you take away their armor and their magnificence, they're nothing.
Oh.
There they are.
Not Dave. Yeah,
What?
I like it.
And that's all I've got.
Cool.
Cool.
What's your
I'm
take
excited to model that frog. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know if Unity
I
supports
can't
blend
wait.
shapes, but another option would be to blend shape him, the animation, from
Yeah.
fat to skinny.
We've never tried to blend shape pipeline into Unity.
Unity does support
supports
blend
them.
shape. So does Unreal. So does every game engine I've ever worked with. But
Okay.
nobody seems to use it. They don't even use it. On the last Tomb Raider game I worked on, they didn't use it, and that was an amazing custom engine. It's too expensive.
That's what I was
If you-
going to say. It's probably too expensive because you got all those fully... I mean, you're literally bringing in full meshes for each blend target, right?
But the other interesting thing is if you have blend shapes, those are constrained. And Unity doesn't export, I mean, the FBX exporter doesn't support blend shapes because it doesn't support constraints. So you'd have to hook it up some other way, and I don't know that way.
Well, I do know that... I don't know if this works for Unity or Unreal, but the most recent version of MyLT and Maya... So they added the shape editor. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's a replacement for the blend shape editor.
Oh, okay.
And when they added that, they added blend shape support to the FBX file.
Oh, cool.
So FBX file does support blend shapes now, and I've used it in Stingray, Autodesk's game engine, and it works great. But I haven't tried Unity or Unreal. I don't know if it works the same.
Yeah, maybe we'll try that.
But it's worth some investigation. But otherwise, I think your idea of having the suit and all that is perfectly fine. I think that'll be cool.
Thanks.
Cool. Well, let's look at the game real quick, and we'll see this little guy in action. So my lighthouse woke up.
Great.
And I'm not quite sure why, but I closed the curtains in my room to suck some of the light out, make it a little darker in here, and maybe that did it.
Could be.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah, I was doing some forum searches, and that was one thing someone said to do was maybe there was too much light coming in. So okay, so can you see? Okay, actually, let me go
make it full screen if you can.
Yeah, let me go full screen for sure. 1 second. Of course, Unity is being a little slow on me.
Yeah,
cool.
Now we see it nice.
Yeah, so there's our guy. So I'll just run through real quick some of the stuff that I've done. And Cathy, you see this okay?
Yeah, it looks
Yeah.
great.
Screen?
Yep.
So I've added the tutorials. Leave the chair, please.
All right.
You just pull my chair out from behind me. So I've added tutorials. We've got the wings spinning on the mouse. That's the mouse that we were just looking at.
Yeah.
Inside of Maya, so we can check him out. He's not animated yet, but he's in here. We got a little specular highlight on his eyes and his nose, which is super cute. I can't wait for you guys to see this in VR. I know the 2D and then streaming across to Twitch is really not doing this guy justice, but holding this thing in your hand, it's like it's a toy. It feels like I'm holding a toy.
Cool.
I feel like I'm 10. I was feeling like I was 10 when I was playing this. And it's just like so
It's
much
like your
fun.
brain tricks you. It's almost like you almost feel the material of it, you know? Like,
Totally.
this is plastic. This is, it's so great. That's one thing I always love about putting on a VR headset that has the controller-based stuff.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. And I can't wait to see his little legs swinging around. And anyway, so he's not quite done. His little laser thing on the top of his head isn't attached to the model yet. So what have I done? I did a little bit of work on the UI. So I've got detection of which mode you're selecting. The colors are super temp. So I haven't done a final pass on the UI, but there's a little bit there. I've added a debug thing up there, so you can see that gray panel up there with a bunch of text on it. That's just for me while I'm testing the game, just to make sure everything is working correctly, and that'll go away in the final game. I can go ahead and start this. And then when we see our first enemy appear, so he's got a little tutorial that appears on him, and I can shoot him. If you look at the miniguns, you can see we've got muzzle flashes and the miniguns indicating, which might be a little hard to see. I'm going to try to... It only shoots actually aiming at a guy.
Oh, I see it when you're looking at it.
Yeah,
I'm trying to look where I'm shooting and looking at the same time.
Because they only shoot when you're aiming at a guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can kind of see it from behind because it's got a little wheels on the back that spin as well.
Fan.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, it's subtle, but it's pretty neat. And the controller is also vibrating as it shoots, so there's kind of there's a tactile feel to the whole operation.
So you can control like rumble on the controller. Okay.
Yeah, they've got haptic feedback built into the controller, and it's pretty easy to tap into with their plugin. And then we've got score popping off of them, so you can see there's a first pass scoreboard sitting in the background that's tracking my score. And then each time I kill a guy, you'll see a little number pop off his head. If I collect power-ups, I'm getting a multiplier, so a guy that was previously worth 10 is now worth 20 because I have 2 power-ups. And that continues to stack. I can spend my 2 power-ups and get a more powerful laser beam that shoots out.
Yeah.
And then you pull the trigger to activate that.
Oh, okay.
And then at the expense of losing your multiplier.
But you might need it.
And then these are the swarm guys. So this is like a little cluster of 5 guys that are chasing me around.
Yeah, those are like they're gonna dive bomb you basically, or like kamikaze you.
Yeah, totally.
within seconds of getting into the hectic part of the gameplay, you actually don't look at the mouse anymore. You just you're so
That's
focused on those on killing those guys.
It's true.
Yeah. It looks great. I mean, it's really come along from the last time I saw it. This is, I mean, other than like getting a more realistic background in there, this is looking fantastic.
Yeah, that's going to come really soon.
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of under the hood kind of stuff. So one thing I discovered while streaming the development of this game is that I'm a little, I don't know how to describe it. I feel like I'm under the microscope, and so I try to do things really quickly, and they end up being a little messy. And then so I've spent a few hours offline just kind of fixing stuff that I wish had been better. So there's some stuff you're seeing in here that probably looks like the last time we looked at the game, but really under the hood, it's much cleaner. The spawning is working better.
Oh,
we didn't really.
Is the guy spinning? Yeah, the guy with the laser eyes is spinning.
Yeah, the guy with the laser eye spins now. I'm showing damage on enemies with their eyes, so I don't know if you noticed that their eyes get more and more red the more damage they take.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's our damage indicator, which I think works really well. You
Yeah,
feel
I like
it actually makes them look meaner.
Yeah.
As you shoot them, they look more pissed off at you.
Yeah, it looks like they're about to shoot some big fireball at you or something. How did you pull off the feathers? I assume that's like a Unity particle effect or something.
Yeah, so I've got particles spitting off their feathers that are spitting off the enemy. So each time an enemy takes damage, he'll kick off a couple feathers.
Yeah.
And then obviously with sustained fire, you get lots of feathers.
That guy's on you, man.
Yeah, this guy is super on me. I don't have player death in yet, just because, it's hard to develop with death in here. But I've got the core of that in the game, and I'll have a debug button on where I can disable it.
Fantastic.
So next steps. I mean, there's still a ton of stuff
What's the
to
frame
do.
rate like?
Wave system working. This is just the endless mode, and then there'll be the wave mode, which will have the boss enemy in it.
Yeah.
And getting player death, adding the bomb variation of this. The when you're in this classic mode, it should actually pulling the trigger would actually be a bomb that just destroys everything around you. It's sort of a it's just a variation of what to do with the power-ups. And then in the wave mode, you'll use the super laser, and that's really effective against the boss.
So what's the frame rate like right now? How's it playing in VR?
It's totally great. Yeah, I don't feel any hitching. It's been solid. I don't have a frame rate counter. That would be interesting actually to set one up in here just to see. But yeah, I don't notice any lag moving my head
smooth though.
We've got 11 guys alive at the moment. Tons of stuff going. Lasers, which are just the Unity's line renderers. And I think we're actually getting more than 11.
Yeah, that's easily. Yeah, this is pretty sweet.
Yeah, so it's pretty crazy. And then we start to see as we go. There's a little bit too much happening. Like right now, there's like 3 swarms on me, which is a little too difficult.
It's amazing looking though. From my end, it looks amazing.
Yeah, you should see it in here. It's cool. Like I'm completely surrounded.
Yeah.
Yeah, he can't.
I would not be alive if death was hooked up.
That is awesome.
Cool. So I'm gonna jump out of that.
Lots.
But yeah, that's pretty much where we are with the game side of it.
So any pointers or difficulties or tips or whatever on what you worked on over the past 2 weeks and related to like VR development?
Yes, but what are they?
You got to start making notes, man.
I know. It's weird, man. I mean, development is you notice things at the time, and then you okay, this is something I'm going to talk about next time.
But you get into the flow, it's super hard to break the flow.
Yeah. It's all good. It's all good. I was just curious. I mean, I'm learning more and more that honestly, VR development really isn't that much different.
Yeah.
Regular development. I mean, you got to worry about frame rate and a little more so than usual, but and there's some issues with just the whole concept of having the controls in your hands and the motion tracking and all that, and being different than a regular game. But
yeah, I think
if you have anything,
I've mentioned before just having to put the headset on like 100 times a day, I just keep imagining that I'm going to wear this thing out, or something's going to go wrong, and hopefully none of the hardware fails, but putting the headset off and on like all day long is kind of a drag. I don't know how to resolve that. I mean, yeah, I've talked to another developer who said that he just keeps the headset, sort of propped up on his forehead all day. I found it a little heavy to balance.
That would be pretty annoying.
Yeah, and then, I don't know. So that part of it's a little strange. And then I've got to wear glasses, so I have to take the glasses off every time. And if I'm wearing my hat, I got to take my hat off.
Yeah.
But, and then you end up basically combing your hair with a Vive like all day long.
Yeah, I don't even comb my hair anymore.
It's not going to be good with the foam around the edge.
I just wake up, leave it the way it is, put my Vive on, take it off. Hey, got a new dude. Yeah, I got like spiked hairdo.
Yeah.
It's trendy.
It's really awful for me because it pushes my my fringe into my eyes.
Yeah.
And it's awkward. That's the one thing. It's awkward to get in there, but as soon as you start playing and those owls start coming at you, I forget everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I feel like I'm running for my life.
Yeah, she was playing. Yeah, she was playing just before the meeting, and like she was in there for quite a while, and that was cool. That felt
it was really
good
fun.
that she was into it for so long.
It's frustrating for me as an animator. It's very hard for me to play and assess at the same time. So normally what I do is, for our games, I get Tim to play, and I'm sitting there with a notebook and I'm writing down everything that needs fixing or anything that could be better. But here, you don't really get the same feeling.
Yeah.
Like, it's really, the critical thing about animating for games is that it's not what the character looks like when you're only looking at that character. What does the character feel like when you're playing it? And the only way to know that is to watch someone play it and try to figure out what they see. Because I can see it on their screen. I can see what's working, what's not. But with this, I can't really see what's working until I'm in the zone, and then it's almost impossible. I have to try to remember my notes and then play for a little bit and then take the helmet off and then make some notes. Because otherwise, I guess I could have a microphone running and just record it. But the other thing is as soon as you get into the thick of play, I don't even see the mouse anymore. You barely see it. It just registers. So that means that the animation is going to have to be something that is going to be amusing while barely registering in your vision.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's really
it looks great, guys. I'm really impressed. 2 weeks of work is amazing what you can get done.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think we're definitely on track for a cool little game demo here, and I look forward to next week to see where we go.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, we've got a lot of stuff coming up over the next week, so I'm excited to see what it looks like.
Yeah.
The only thing, obviously, is the holidays are coming up. Now, I will be, so I usually take a vacation in December, so I will be gone for like half of December.
Which half?
Yeah, or the second half. Yeah, the second half. So, Autodesk gives us like a week of rest, and then before that I always take 2 weeks off. So it's actually most of December. I'll be here for the first week. But, so like the question then is like, obviously we won't be having a production meeting then, but like how close do you guys think we actually are to wrapping this up, like to being completely finished and not needing to do any more production meetings?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know, a week or two? I'm actually going to be in San Francisco the first week of December, so it would be nice to wrap it up before then, but that's just over a week.
That's literally after next week. So.
And we can still do, we can try to do like a group Skype between the three of us if we're still having production meetings there. I'll be able to do a little bit of work while I'm there. So
it'd be cool to have it all done by like December. Is December 2nd a Tuesday?
Before I leave.
No, you leave December 1st.
I know, would it be?
Oh, so that would leave us next Tuesday, and that's the one last meeting unless we meet.
So next Tuesday is the 29th.
Yeah.
And that would be our last meeting before you go away. When would you be back?
I will be back. I might stay a bit longer, but I'm currently planning to be back on the 8th.
On the 8th, okay. Yeah, and after the 9th, which is the Friday of that week, after that I'm on vacation. So,
Okay.
I mean, we definitely can have a meeting next Tuesday. And then see where we are from there, I guess. You know?
Yeah, I mean, we could always, I mean, it's pretty normal for studios to take a bunch of time off over the holidays, so we could always just, try to get as much of the game done by next Tuesday, and then just pick the whole thing up in the new year and see where we are and finish up anything that still needs to be done.
Yeah, that works for me. We just won't stream for a couple of weeks, and we'll pick it back up. Yeah, that works. So let's set an agenda for next week. So like I said, great progress this week. Looks like the game's really humming along here, and it's starting to actually feel and look like a game. So let's figure out what you guys will be showing us next week in our last episode for the year, which will be VRGO episode 5.
Okay. I think on my end, I would like to get the environment modeled. And I would like to get the interface, like the scoreboard and the like the waves, the mode selection and stuff. I'd like to figure out how to get that integrated in the world, so it's not just floating numbers. That there's some kind of a wooden panel background that drops down and it's actually holding them up like they're signs or something like that. So, and then I'd like to get the boss at least functional. Maybe not with the fully animated character. We'll see what Cathy wants to do there. But basically get the wave mode working, which is the mode that has the boss. So you have a wave of enemies, and then you have a boss stage, and then another wave, and then a harder boss stage, and etc. Until you go through 4 or 5 stages and defeat that mode. The mode I've been showing you all along has been just endless, like it goes forever, and it's just collect as many points as you can.
Does the boss ever show up in that?
No, the boss never shows up in the classic mode. It's just waves of owls. Yeah, so I think getting the second mode working, getting the boss at least functional, maybe not visibly awesome looking yet, getting the animated owls in would be good, getting the animated character in.
I'll get the rigged and animated owls. I'll do some animation for the character. We were talking about using Ragdoll for that, so we'll make that decision.
Yeah, we might do some Ragdoll tests. I mean, that would just make him so he flops around when you're moving the thing. I don't know how that's going to look. If it just looks like he's a doll just hanging there, I don't know if that's what we're going for, or if you want to do something, where he's like banking or.
Well, I was going to do several different kind of banking kind of things. So that, if you move him this way, he'll drop that way. If you move him this way, he'll drop that way. And then what I'm hoping is that we can get in a blending kind of system. So as he goes from one way to another, we'll blend those animations. Obviously, holding it this way is going to be 100% one animation. This 100% that animation. We'll see how that works.
I think Unity's State Machine Editor would support something like that, based on the rotation of the asset or something.
Yeah,
it blends to the other animation. Yeah.
So those will. And then I have to move towards progress on the big boss toad, which would be at least getting like a not maybe finalized version of the mesh in. But I'll go as far as I can with that. And see, because I still am thinking, like I really need to know how it operates in the game before I can actually design.
Yeah. So there's design side stuff that needs to happen with the boss. I like the idea of the the exo sort of skeleton that gets chipped off, and then you reveal the skinny little guy underneath.
Yep, that works for me. So one other thing, audio. Like, when do you guys think you'll start adding audio to the game? Or is there already audio?
Good question. Yeah, we've got to get some audio in there. We were just thinking to do some 8-bit stuff with CFXR,
right?
Just because that's we can create that stuff and it's free to distribute along with the project. It gets complicated if you're using somebody else's library with licensing and things like that. You can't really just give away someone else's work,
right?
So, which is going to be kind of pew 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 like 8-bitty kind of stuff. Which I don't know. Maybe it won't fit well enough here. So, I don't know. That's a good question. Let's put it on the list to at least start stubbing in some audio, and we could always use the 8-bit stuff as a scratch audio and see how it feels.
Yeah, we can see how it feels, and then like on my end, on an Autodesk end, if we just decide to replace the audio, we can hire a guy that I know that does audio for games. So
cool. It wouldn't be a ton of assets. Yeah, it wouldn't be too many, so maybe it's not a big deal.
Yeah, well, music too. He can create a full musical track for the game. So if we end up doing that,
cool.
Unless you,
yeah, we don't have any plans to produce any music for this, but yeah, a little ambient something. I mean, we could even maybe we get like a forest. You know, we could always go out at night and record some crickety kind of wind and
Not anymore.
Stuff like that. Yeah, there's no crickets. It's cold. It's cold here, but I don't know if you still got crickets around your place and a decent sound recorder.
It's kind of cold here too. Yeah, no worries. We'll figure it out. Just wanted to make sure that's still like towards the end here, starting to be thought of, to at least maybe start stubbing it in, like you said, so we can get some feel for that.
Yeah, it's funny. Sound is one of those things that always gets left to the last second, and
it shouldn't.
It wasn't really on my radar, and it really shouldn't, because I mean, sound is super important.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So good meeting. I think we ran over a little bit today that we normally do, but I think we got a lot covered, a lot of good progress that I've seen today. And as we already discussed, so for those of you watching this, we'll be broadcasting again on Tuesday of the 29th, I think it is, next week. Anyway, and that will be our last broadcast for the year. And we'll probably pick back up the first week of January. If not, it'll be the second week of January, depending on everybody's vacation schedules. But I hope you guys enjoyed watching the show today. Next week, we'll, as we discussed, be covering just more progress, basically, on the game. It's really starting to take shape. And as always, check out Tim and Cathy's website, rocket5studios.com. And their Twitch channel is twitch.tv/rocket5studios. You can see it at the bottom there right now on the screen. Just go there, right there. Boom. And check them out. They do a lot of streaming of the work they're doing. And we'll see you guys, I guess, next Tuesday. Oh, and check out the blog post, Autodesk area. So that would be area.autodesk.com. You can check out blog posts there for game development and VR development as well. There's our series, VRGO, as well as a cool series by Daryl Aubert, who's doing Journey to VR. And his is more focused on film and stuff, but definitely check him out. Anyway, so
yeah, I've been watching that a bit. That's a cool series.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely, he's got some really good. He introduced me to like a plugin for Maya. I didn't even know it existed for VR like seeing your assets in Maya. So
I saw that. I haven't tried it, but I saw the stream about that. It looks pretty cool.
Yep. All right, so thanks for watching, everybody. We'll catch you next week, and in VRGO episode 5, I think. Did I say? Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
5.
And otherwise, thanks, Tim and Kathy. Have a good week.
Thank you.
And we'll see everybody next time.
All right. Bye-bye.